Hey, it's Jesse from the Biggest Guys Locker Room. You guys ever thought about starting your own podcast? Whether it be for business, personal, or simply talking about the things you love? Well, I can honestly say when we started our podcast, it was the best decision and it's the most fun we've ever had. But starting a new podcast can be overwhelming at times. And that's where Buzzsprout comes in. Buzzsprout is the best way to start your own professional podcast. They're so good, they've already helped out over 100,000 podcasters get their message out to the world. Buzzsprout offers you so many tools, like a great-looking podcast website, audio players that you can drop into other websites, detailed analytics to see how people are listening, and tools to promote your episodes, and more and more and more. Buzzsprout even gets your show listed on every major podcast platform, such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. They provide so many tools to help you get started with tutorials on YouTube, podcast tutorials, everything you may need to get your journey started. So if you're looking to start your professional podcast today, follow the link in the show notes. This lets Buzzsprout know that we sent you and help support our show. Buzzsprout, the easiest way to start a podcast. Hey guys, this is Jesse from the Biggest Guys Locker Room. I just want to spread a little love and support to anyone who has family or friends that are affected by everything going on in Hawaii right now. Our thoughts and prayers are with you, and we hope you guys make a full recovery soon. All right, guys, much love. All right, guys, welcome back to the Biggest Guys Locker Room. I'm your host, Jesse, and today we got a interesting but special show for you today. I'm actually going to be doing a mock draft. I'll be doing this solo, and as I go through, I'm going to walk you through my thoughts and process of how I'm drafting and how I'm trying to put together a team. I will be doing a 10-team league, full PPR, 6-point quarterback touchdowns. But first, we're going to get into something I want to talk about. Listen, Hard Knocks is in full force, guys. We got the Jets this year going on with... You just listen, it's like the Aaron Rodgers show. Curious to see. I did like the first two episodes, been very entertaining. I especially did like how they brought Liev Schreiber into camp. To be honest, I didn't even know he was the voiceover for Hard Knocks, and I've been watching Hard Knocks for years. Curious to see. I mean, usually he has a very distinct voice, and I didn't even know he did it. I did know that Paul Rudd did it one year. His voice is hard not to recognize, but I did not know that was Liev Schreiber doing Hard Knocks every year. It's been an interesting show. I did love how Aaron Rodgers was trying to get everybody over there to say hello. Everybody seemed kind of nervous. He's begging everybody to go say hi to him. So it was fun to watch. Listen, his teammates seem to really accept him. I mean, there's so much stuff that goes on about Aaron Rodgers. You know, he's got his own ways, his set ways about how he does things, kind of unique. So he gets a lot of flack for that. Good to see that his teammates are responding well to him. It looks like this should be an interesting year. The biggest thing I take away from the first two episodes is that defense looks legit. It's going to be interesting, especially with those teams they have in the AFC East with the Bills, the Dolphins. You know, the Pats are trying to rebuild. Curious to see what Bill O'Brien's offense is going to look. That should be interesting to see. But that defense looked legit, and it should be an interesting year for the Jets. I know a lot of people are high on a lot of these Jets players. I don't think offensively they're going to be as explosive enough. I think they're going to control the clock a lot more. But it should be interesting to see. I can't wait. It's going to be fun to watch. 2 episodes in. Show's been great so far. It's been entertaining. I did like the second episode with the mentalist coming in and freaking everybody out. That was pretty entertaining. That was kind of fun to watch. Aaron Rodgers' expression when he was holding the goldfish in his hand rather than the deck of cards. That was kind of cool to see. But what are your thoughts on this? I mean, have you enjoyed? Has anybody been watching the show? I just like it. I kind of get behind the scenes of it. Fans' reaction, seeing Rodgers just show up to practice was immense. Everybody's out there to see what he does. I'm curious, if they had Hard Knocks when Favre had gone to the Jets, did he get a similar reception about how Brett was getting to the Jets and thinking they were going to take that to the promised land? Because that didn't really work out too well for him in the end there. So curious to see how this plays out. This version of a Packers legend coming over to the Jets to help this team win. I'm curious to see myself. So hopefully, listen, those shows up here on Tuesdays, HBO, Max, if you guys have the app. Check it out. See what you think, guys. All right, like I said, we're going to be doing a mock draft today. This is going to be just a standard PPR league, 10-team league. I did a random drawing. I am drafting 9th. So let's see. Let's get this started. So in the first round, of course, odd to see, Jamar Chase goes number 1 overall, followed by Christian McCaffrey, Justin Jefferson, Cooper Kupp at 4, Tyreek Hill at 5, Austin Eckler at 6, Bijan Robinson going at 7. And then there it is, Travis Kelce, who's been going in the first round a lot. Me and George had talked about in a prior show about Kelce going in the first round. Yes, I know he's one of those one players where, listen, you're only going to probably draft maybe 1 tight end, 2 if you're probably planning on streaming. If you want that huge advantage at tight end, yeah, risking a first round pick, I don't like it. So, but Kelce at 8. Now I am on the clock. I am looking at, possibly Stefon Diggs, Saquon Barkley is available. Where do you want to go? Do you want to grab one of these huge players? Looking at my list and where I'd like to go, Stefon Diggs is definitely a choice that I'm pondering here. Also looking at Saquon Barkley. I think Barkley's going to catch a lot of passes out of the backfield, especially in a PPR league. So how do I want to structure this team is what I'm thinking. Okay, if I go running back here, what's going to be looking at me in this second round coming back to me? Like I said, the wide receivers still available. Diggs, Lamb, A.J. Brown, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Devontae Adams. Running backs, of course, you still have like Nick Chubb, Derrick Henry. I think I'm going to go at 9 here. I'm going to go with Stefon Diggs. I think I'm going to go that route and see what I can build here. So after I choose, Team 10 takes Nick Chubb and Saquon Barkley. Now it's coming back around to me. Looking at the running backs, Derrick Henry, Jonathan Taylor. Too many questions about Jonathan Taylor. I don't know if I really want to take the risk on him. Maybe if he was to come back in the 3rd, maybe 4th. It's just going to be hard, especially with that offense. What's going to get vultured away from him? Now, do you go high upside? So with the way I got this ranked, I think the last in the group that I really like at running backs is Derrick Henry. Looking in this wide receiver room, there's several players I like. I know that's not going to come back around to me. I'm a little concerned about the running back situation. I did grab a high-profile wide receiver in the first round. By the time this gets back to me, what's going to be left at running back? I know I'm not going to get anything in the tiers I like. There's a lot of good receivers, of course. I think I'm going to go with the Derrick Henry route here. Just to know that I've gotten one solid running back that I really like that's up in my top 10. I know that the rest of them are not going to come back, so I will have at least one receiver and one running back that I consider to be top 10 talent. So I will go grab Derrick Henry here with my second pick. Coming off the board is CeeDee Lamb, followed by A.J. Brown, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Jonathan Taylor does go in the second round. Now, sure, a little running back of quarterbacks here. We got Patrick Mahomes goes, Garrett Wilson, followed by Devontae Adams. And then Josh Allen comes off the board. So Josh Allen is a second QB coming off the board. Now, in the 3rd round, coming back, he comes back, follows with Josh Jacobs. His situation is up in the air. We don't know. Next, and then Chris Olave to team 2, Waddle, Stevenson, Tony Pollard. Mark Andrews, a second tight end, comes off the board. And then the 3rd quarterback with team 7 gets Jalen Hurts. Number 8 takes Breece Hall in the 3rd round. I'm now on the board looking at what I have left to choose from. Looks like at receivers, I got T. Higgins, Devontae Smith, maybe a DK Metcalf. Those guys I don't have in the tiers that I really want to draft in. Now, being it's a 10-team league, I've missed out on the top 3 quarterbacks. It's the 3rd round, only a 10-team league, so there's going to be a lot of availability as far as receivers go. Looking at the running backs now, available to me is Najee Harris, Travis Etienne, Jamar Gibbs, Joe Mixon, Kenneth Walker. Looking at those guys, Joe Mixon is pretty high. Is pretty high on my board. He's a high risk, but he could be high reward. He is kind of what's left in that tier that I really like. The next tier that I have below that, Gibbs, Harris, they kind of fall in that area for me. I think I'm going to go ahead and snatch up Joe Mixon here with my 3rd overall pick and solidify my running backs. Team 10 goes with Devontae Smith and Najee Harris back-to-back. Now it's coming back to me. I can look at what we have left. T. Higgins, DK Metcalf, Deebo Samuel is still on the board. Looking at where I have them kind of ranked in my rankings, T. Higgins I kind of have in the top 20. DK I definitely have in the top 15. Deebo can be surprising. I don't have him ranked as high as this ADP would suggest. So being that it's a 2 running back, 2 wide receiver, 1 flex option, and a tight end option, I've missed out on the top 2 tight ends. Okay, tight ends, I think I'm just going to wait and see what happens here. There's some guys that have some upsides that are still left, not knowing if they may come back to her, but maybe in the 4th round, I'm willing to take that gamble and really probably go after a nice receiver piece to go with Diggs here. I think I'm going to take the upside here of DK Metcalf. And listen, last year was an interesting year for him. He only had, 6 touchdowns? 6 touchdowns last year. Definitely a fall off from previous years. The previous 2 years, he had he had double-digit touchdowns. Last year is a career low in touchdowns for him. I think that bounces back, and I think he has a huge year this year. So I'm going to go ahead and go with DK Metcalf as my second receiver, my 4th overall pick, and my second receiver. Next off the board, Lamar Jackson, T. Higgins, Aaron Jones. Joe Burrow goes, Travis Etienne, Jamar Gibbs, Deebo Samuel, and at the turn is Keenan Allen, Amari Cooper. Now coming back in the 5th, Ken Walker, Justin Herbert, TJ Hawkinson, surprisingly coming off the board pretty early. Calvin Ridley, Justin Fields, George Kittle, Terry McLaurin. Wow. So definitely missed out 4 more quarterbacks going. And in a 10-team league, listen, it's a good bet to go that route. But now that I'm in uncertain territory with the quarterback position, not a lot of guys left with huge upside. I think I'm just going to have to play the waiting game on the quarterback and just try to stack up and get a little more strength going in with my receivers and running backs. Looking maybe to fill that next flex option. Looking here at the list of guys available, Hopkins, Pierce, DJ Moore, who I think is moved up in everybody's list after watching what they're trying to do in Chicago. It looks like they will be trying to get him the ball. I don't see a huge upside. Don't see a huge upside for DJ Moore. I just think he has a very solid floor, but not a lot of huge upside. And listen, when you're trying to win your fantasy football league, what you want to do is you want to try to get upside. So looking at this list, I don't like the Hopkins one just because it's Tennessee. They don't throw the ball a lot. Their receivers don't tend to fall in the top 20. Running backs are a little questionable. So you got Dameon Pierce, Houston. How good is that offense going to be? J.K. Dobbins, Miles Sanders. I think I'm going to go with big upside here and take a risk, and I'm going to go Kyle Pitts and solidify maybe and hopefully get something out of that tight end spot this year. Yeah, I'm going to go Kyle Pitts for the big, large upside here that he may bring to my team. So at this point, through 5 rounds, I have Stefon Diggs, Derrick Henry, Joe Mixon, DK Metcalf, and Kyle Pitts. After my Kyle Pitts pick, DeAndre Hopkins went, Dameon Pierce, the 2 that were pretty much highest on the ADP board. We're looking in the 6th round. Now I'm looking for a little more depth, maybe some guys with huge upside, and a guy that I think may have a lot of upside going into this season. Still a lot of running backs available. J.K. Dobbins, Alexander Madison, Alvin Kamara. After that 3-game suspension, what does he look like? I think, where do I have him ranked? I think I have him top 25. Not a whole lot of upside here. Looking at this, I don't want to jump on quarterback just yet. I think there's some good ones there with some upside that I can get later, and maybe just pick a couple, maybe pick 2 in this draft just to maybe stream matchups. At this point, all the high upside quarterbacks are pretty much gone off the board. And in the 6th round, I'm going to take a risk. And I think I'm going to go with J.K. Dobbins here. We all know the Baltimore Ravens love to run the ball. If they do give him the majority of the bulk carries, I like his upside. He can catch the ball in the backfield. He's a young back. It's his second year coming back off that knee injury. Me and George have talked about it. Usually when they come off that second year injury, usually that's when they explode. I'm going to go ahead and get deeper at the running back position just because we know how thin that is. And I'm going to go with J.K. Dobbins and see how this goes. Next off the board is Drake London, followed by DJ Moore, Jerry Jeudy, Christian Watson, Alexander Madison, Chris Godwin, DeAndre Swift going in the 6th. Why is anybody even taking DeAndre Swift? Why is his ADP so high? To me, he's one of those guys who may not even make the team. So, kind of curious there. To finish up the 6th round is Miles Sanders. Starting at the 7th, Dallas Goedert goes, followed by Trevor Lawrence, James Conner, Marquise Brown, Cam Akers, Alvin Kamara goes, Dalvin Cook, Rashad White. I'm up on the board now. A lot of running backs are off now. I'm glad I really solidified that with J.K. Dobbins looking back on it now, because now I can look at the receiver position. And there's some guys with a huge upside here that I really, really like. Now, seeing as I have DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett is available, but I don't want to dip in that. I've already got one Seattle Seahawks receiver. I think I'm going to go with a guy here with some huge upside. It's a change of offense. Kellen Moore coming over from Dallas over to the LA Chargers. I think I'm going to go here Mike Williams just for huge upside potential, because the way Kellen Moore loves to run his offense, he likes to take deep shots. The person you're probably going to go to on that is probably going to be Mike Williams. We know what kind of athlete he is. We know he's a stud if he can stay healthy. That is the big question. He did have some injury problems last year. I'm hoping this is a year almost like he had in 2021, where he had the 9 touchdowns, 1,100 yards receiving. It seems like he does this thing off and on, where it's good year followed by an injury-plagued year. Great year followed by an injury-plagued year. When he plays his 15 to 16 games, it's pretty solid. So I'm going to hope and bet on this being an up year for Mike Williams. And I'm going to take Mike Williams with my 7th round pick here and really get deeper at the receiver. Following that is Isaiah Pacheco and Darren Waller at the turn. To me, now you're looking at tight ends. The tight ends are pretty much off the board that have any kind of upside. I'm glad that I got Kyle Pitts when I did. Hopefully, listen, a lot of people are down on him. I'm hoping he finally turns. The guy is such a freakish athlete. I'm hoping that this offense decides to get him the ball a little more creatively. So we're gonna move forward, and we're gonna try to get a little deeper. Looking at the quarterback position now, I don't know if I want to grab anybody there. There's not a huge lot of guys. There's a lot of risk and not a whole lot of upside with the guys kind of on this board remaining. A lot of guys with some nice floors, not a whole lot of upside with the quarterbacks going forward. I'm still looking for more upside. These are the guys I want to grab that have big potential to have big years. And looking at the list that I have, Javonte Williams, of course, is up there. It's amazing to see him playing already. I think that's a too big of a risk. I think just talking about how we've discussed having guys and they're returning from knee injuries, usually the first year back is not a huge year. It's usually the second. So I don't know if I want to go with Javonte Williams. There's also David Montgomery, James Cook, A.J. Dillon, Antonio Gibson, Brian Robinson. Those guys are kind of in that same category together. Looking at what's left at receivers, Brandon Ayuk, who I really like this year. I think he has some good upside. Michael Pittman. I think that's just too much of a risk, especially with a rookie quarterback. I think there's too much risk, not a whole lot of upside there. Christian Kirk should be an explosive offense. I don't know what role he's going to play now with Calvin Ridley. Reports coming out of camp, he is simply practicing and running routes out of the slot. I don't know what that's going to make him. Remember, he did that in Arizona. He kind of disappeared in that offense. George Pickens is there. That's all going to depend on how big of a leap that Pickett makes. I'm not willing to take him here in the 8th. I'm looking for a nice floor with bigger upside, and I think Brandon Ayuk is such a low risk and has such opportunity to have a big year here. I think I'm going to go another receiver, and I'm going to go Brandon Ayuk. After the 8th round, my team looks like Stefon Diggs, Derrick Henry, Joe Mixon, DK Metcalf, Kyle Pitts, J.K. Dobbins, Mike Williams, Brandon Ayuk. After I took Ayuk, Tyler Lockett gets off the board, Christian Kirk, Mike Evans, Michael Pittman, James Cook, George Pickens, Jahan Dotson, Javonte Williams goes, JSN, Jackson Smith and Jigba, followed by Jordan Addison, 2 rookies going back-to-back, Evan Ingram, Deontay Johnson, David Montgomery, Brandon Cooks, A.J. Dillon, Treylon Burks, who's had a great camp, goes just before my pick, and now I am back on the clock. Looking at it here in the 9th round, not a whole lot left with guys with huge upside. Now I'm just trying to find maybe some guys that can have breakout years. Something that maybe can help me going forward. Quarterback-wise, looking at it now here in the 9th, you got Dak Prescott, Deshaun Watson, Tua Tagovailoa, Anthony Richardson, Aaron Rodgers, Kirk Cousins. These guys have nice, solid floors. They're not going to blow anybody out of the water. Anthony Richardson has the biggest upside, especially with that running ability, but he is a rookie quarterback, so you know he's going to have turnovers. You know he's going to hurt you in points. I think I'm going to go with somebody that has been proven. And looking at the draft board, it looks like everybody except for Team 10 has already drafted a quarterback. So I think I can put in there and look to see if I can hit maybe one of these guys that might be explosive. Now, the biggest risk I have looking at my team right now would be the Kyle Pitts situation. So looking at maybe another tight end that could give me a nice solid floor, has decent upside, not a huge risk. There's Pat Freiermuth, David Njoku, Dalton Schultz, Cole Kmet, Dalton Kincaid, rookie out of Buffalo. Listen, everybody likes him. Historically, though, as we all know, rookie tight ends don't tend to produce. So really looking at what I want to do here. What do I want to solidify? Do I want to maybe solidify that tight end position? I don't think I want to. I think there's some other guys that I can grab later that have low risk and could have huge years. So I think I'm going to wait on that. Looking at the running back situation, we all know you can never have enough running backs simply because we don't know what's going to happen. Receivers look a little interesting. Kadarius Toney, I'm kind of out on a Kadarius Toney. The man just can't stay healthy. Rookie Quentin Johnson, I already have a Charger on my team. Kind of want to get away from that. Michael Thomas, Juju Smith-Schuster, Gabe Davis, Zay Flowers, Odell Beckham, and Elijah Moore kind of in that wide receiver range. I think I'm going to go with a flyer on a running back here. I think I'm going to go Antonio Gibson just because I think he's going to be solid. And with a new coach, a new offense coordinator there, I could see him catching more balls out of that backfield and maybe getting some more opportunities than he has in the past to showcase that athleticism that he has from being a prior wide receiver. So my pick here is going to be Antonio Gibson. Finishing out the 9th round, Team 10 does finally select their quarterback, and they do go with Dak Prescott. Starting off the 10th round, rookie Quentin Johnson goes off the board. I'm back on the board now. I can kind of wait on my quarterback now. I mean, I really can. Everybody's already selected one. I can kind of punt on that and go forward and just try to get a little deeper and see if I can hit on some high-end upside guys, especially with 3 rounds to go. We're not drafting tight ends. We're not drafting defenses, and we're not drafting kickers in this league simply because, listen, that's all whatever you feel. So we're going to skip that. So we do have 3 rounds left available. I don't have to grab a quarterback now. I can take some flyers and see if I can hit some big upside guys with these picks. And I think I'm going to do that. And one that I really like at receiver is rookie receiver Zay Flowers. Coming out of camp, everybody is huge on Zay Flowers. The Baltimore Ravens speak highly of him. I think this is where I'm going to go with my pick just to see if I can get the huge upside. Listen, here in the later rounds. So Zay Flowers would be my pick. He's followed up by Kadarius Toney, Michael Thomas, Brian Robertson, Pat Freiermuth, Juju Smith-Schuster, Jamal Williams, David Njoku. Now we have some backup quarterbacks going off the board with Deshaun Watson, Gabe Davis, Anthony Richardson, Kirk Cousins, Dalton Schultz. Tua goes, Rashad Penny, Aaron Rodgers, and there's Dalton Kincaid. kind of didn't work out for me there. But I do like some of the quarterbacks that are still on the board, especially one. There's a couple there that I really like, and I think what I'm going to end up doing is streaming, and I'm going to go with picking here. I'm going to pick Geno Smith from Seattle. That gives me the hookup with DK Metcalf, so it gives me a nice little stack there as well. So I'm going to go with Geno Smith, and looking at what I have with receivers and hookups here, don't really like anything left. I think I'm going to pick somebody that has huge upside. High risk, but huge upside. Wouldn't be worried if I had to drop him going into the season, but if he does pan out when he does come back from injury, I'm going to take Kyler Murray here in the final round. Zach Charbonnet went to Team 10 here in the 11th. Elijah Moore goes in the 12th. I'm back on the clock. I will go with Kyler Murray at this point, just because he has huge upside. I don't know what it's going to be like, but he does it. This is a guy who 2 years ago was probably a top 5 quarterback. Can he get back to that status? I don't know, but the upside is there, especially with just taking him in the last round. I'm going to go with Kyler Murray. Finishing out the draft is Khalil Herbert, Odell Beckham Jr., Samaje Perine, Cortland Sutton, who people are starting to come back around on, and hopefully he has a big year. Devon Achane, Cole Kmet, Alan Lazard, and Jarrett McKinnon. I kind of like the draft. I really do. I think I'm pretty happy with what I got out of this draft and how it went for me. So running back list, I have Derrick Henry, Joe Mixon, J.K. Dobbins, Antonio Gibson are my 4 running backs. At receiver, I have Stefon Diggs, DK Metcalf, Mike Williams, Brandon Ayuk, Zay Flowers at receiver. My quarterback, I have Geno Smith, followed up by Kyler Murray, maybe with some huge upside, snacking him up in the last round. And my onesie tight end position, I have Kyle Pitts. Tell me what you guys think, guys. Let me know what you think of my draft. What do you think of that team that I drafted in the 10-team PPR league? This was a lot of fun. This was the first time I've ever done a mock draft on this. So curious to see what your guys' thoughts. Did you enjoy it? Was it kind of fun to listen to? Tell me what you think. And listen, next time we'll hopefully get somebody else involved, and we'll kind of banter back and forth. I just kind of wanted to take this thing for a test drive and see how this mock draft went while doing a podcast. So, guys, again, thanks for listening. Thanks for all the support. Really appreciate you guys joining me for this and all the journeys that we've gone through. Please follow me on any platform that you probably listen to your podcast. Give me a review. Follow along. Get notified for new episodes. Thanks for supporting the show, guys, and we'll see you next time here on Vegas Guys Locker Room. Have a great day, guys. Later.